Alright, this, you know what I'm saying, your #1 cricket writer, J-KILLA.
J-K-I-double-L fucking A. Riding back and forth and up and down these freeways. My life be coming around, sometimes these age lace hoes. And when I'm sitting on that time, I still feel I need
raised. So, I was born at home in 1978 in Nevada City or Grass Valley. I gotta look on my birth certificate. I always say Nevada City, but for some reason I feel like it might have been Grass, whatever. But that whole region right there, they're pretty much kind of like twin cities.
Right.
Yeah, so I was born at home.
At home?
Yeah. My mom's midwife said when I was born, I told her that I was Selassie reincarnated. And so I thought that was funny. But yeah, my mom said she said that was the first and the last time I ever have a baby at home. And so yeah, you know, it was one of those things. My dad, he was kind of more of a, you know, he on the indigenous Makalimi tribe, but he's more like a hippie, I guess, in my eyes. And he wanted her to have the baby, have me at home. And my mom had agreed to it, but she said after that, we ain't doing that again. So all my brothers and sisters on my mom's side anyway, I was the only one. And so yeah, I was born there, and I couldn't remember being there at all. My mom and my dad broke up, got a divorce, I guess. And I don't know, shortly after that, I think they were 81, maybe by the time I was 2 or 3, we had already moved to California and then really settled in Reno. And that's around the time too I got my diagnosis with my condition. So there was a lot of that going on, but just from a geographical standpoint, I went to Reno from 81 roughly to 89. Yeah, about that. And so I was kind of raised there off of Whitaker Road, Neal Road, all kinds of different schools out there. But long story short, we came back to Sacramento or California in 89. And I've pretty much been there ever since, in the same neighborhood. First we moved off of San Juan. We stayed there for about 2 months. We just got the apartment. I think my mom got the move-in special deal, and as soon as that was up, we had moved to the next move-in special, which was in the Riverside Villa, was what it was back then. Basically, kind of like right there between Greenhaven, Freeport, kind of, you know, area, off of 43rd, right there. And then I lived there off and on all through the 90s, pretty much. But yeah, that's where I met up with everybody. The Riverside Villas had everybody living there, and yeah. So, but really, I relocated to Freeport by about '98. And so I bought my house, and first I lived in the apartments over there. We used to call them, it was called the Trade Winds, and we just called them all kind of different names. But after living in those apartments for about 5-6 years, that's when I started doing all the music. Bought my house, so I've kind of been, you know, a Freeport kind of adoptee, if you will, from just, you know, being there for so long. That's kind of where I met, you know, with the Mercenaries, and, you know, got closer with Avis and Counter as far as when the Rolling 1000. And that's pretty much where all the music that everybody hears, I guess, came from, as far as where I lived when it was recorded. The first album was probably mostly done when I was in between. I lived all over the South for a while, cause you know, it's a long story short, but my mom had left, and I pretty much was on my own. I was about 15, and so I was just kind of all over the. I lived off of Perry, kind of by Stockton. It's called, you know, Stockton and Perry by the library off of Stockton. I lived off of Secure Court. You know, so yeah, kind of all over in the South area. You know, that's just the name of the field.
Okay.
Yeah.
Damn, that's what's up, man.
All kind of schools.
Yeah.
I think I went to Kennedy for a month, and then they put me out kind of like in a weird way. It was kind of illegal, I think, what they was doing, but nonetheless, I went to Kennedy for a month, and then went to Sac High after that, then ultimately ended up graduating from Thurgood Marshall.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense, because Boudog was from Thurgood too, I think.
Yeah, I think so too, but I think he might have went there either just before or just after me.
Okay.
He might have been there for a minute at the same time. When I went there, I was behind on my credits just because everything I had been going through. And so when I got there though, it was like a whole new world, because I didn't like school very much. I was not a good morning person, and I really didn't get along well, I guess, in that kind of like K-12 environment, I guess, and I was really on the verge of dropping out, and that's why I went to see my partner today, Dean, RC, and they really kind of like saved me because they came and picked me up and take me to Thurgood because they were going to Thurgood, him and Sir, his brother, and when I was going to Thurgood with them, they would come get me, and they basically wouldn't let me quit. But I liked Thurgood a lot, so what I was getting at is I was only there for a short time. Even though I was behind, I saw I could make up credits real fast, so I ended up graduating from high school early, actually. And yeah, I was just putting my nose down. I was homeless at the time, so I didn't really have much else to do but my schoolwork, I guess. So yeah.
All right, I'm gonna ask you about when you were in Reno and your condition and shit.
Okay.
2 years old?
Yeah, I think I was actually a few months old at first, when they first, because the condition I got is very rare, if not one of a kind. So, you know, depending on how you define it. But at first, when they first diagnosed me, I was a few months old. I think I was 3 months old, something like that, 6 months old. And they thought I had bone cancer throughout my body. So they told my parents, like, he got bone cancer, he's not gonna live, you know, another 90 days or something. It's already spread throughout his whole body, basically. And so that was kind of like my first diagnosis, and that was when my parents were still together. Obviously, I don't really remember anything from that time. But long story short, it took them about, they seen I didn't die right away, you know, they or in the time frame. So then they said, well, we gotta figure this out, because, you know, I think I started going on 2 or 3, something like that. And then they said, nah, actually, he has this, they first diagnosed me with a condition called polyostotic fibrous dysplasia. And that was a diagnosis from Dr. Cobden. And that was right around the time my parents split up. And about, I don't know, I remember Dr. Cobden, but he stayed with me for a while. Long story short, after he diagnosed me, they took me, that's when I kind of went to Reno with my mom. And I was seen by Dr. McClish, and he said I had, McCune's Albright syndrome as a part of polyostotic fibrous dysplasia. And so that's kind of was what I understood to have, and it basically make my bones deform and break easily. So, and they would give me a lot of surgeries when I was young, like from the time I was, I want to say 3 to 7, yeah. From age 3 to 9. From 1981 to 1987, I had like 13 kind of major surgeries where they were straightening out my bones in my legs, mostly, yeah, my hips and my shins. And they said that as long as they would heal straight, that one day I might be able to walk, and so that's why they were doing it. But it was like very painful, body cast all the time, and you know, 13 times you're in a body cast just from the surgeries alone. It was kind of sucked a lot, and so, you know, had a lot of pain, and they used to have me on all kind of like drugs nowadays that they kind of, you know, are very taboo, I guess. So they had me maxed out on them when I was like, as far as I can remember, 3, 4, 5, 6, I don't know, but it was kind of good in that way, not to get too far off subject, because from a young age I was taught by the doctors how not to, you know, basically how to manage it. They was like, you know, this is very addictive, you have to wean yourself kind of off of it, don't try to quit instantly, but also understand that the more you take, the harder it's going to be to come off of it. And so, you know, I feel like if they did that more so nowadays with the medicines, then people would, I feel like a lot of times people who need the medicine have to go through pain, because it's a, you know, an issue as far as people abusing the medicine. I feel like, you know, that would be a good thing if they just counsel people more instead of just, you know, writing a prescription. And anyway,
Shit, yeah.
so I was there until 1989, and part of the impetus that would move us back to Sacramento was the doctor there said, basically, ain't nothing else we could really do for him. You know, pretty much like, if anything else, we just gonna have to amputate his leg or something. And this whole time they kept saying that I'll pass away. Like, first thing they said I had bone cancer, obviously they said I was gonna pass away right away. When Dr. Cobden said that I could live to be, you know, 7, 8, 9 kind of a thing, you know, like I was gonna probably not make it to adulthood. then when I got with Dr. McClish, he said, well, he probably gonna be 17, 18, probably see young adulthood. I think the last diagnosis he gave me was around 25. He said that was probably the max I would be able to live. And so this whole time I'm kind of growing up and going through this, I'm kind of operating under the assumption that I have a limited, time, if you will. And so Dr. McClish said there's nothing else we could really do for him. And then he referred me to Stanford. And that was kind of big for us because Stanford's a kind of a prestigious kind of hospital. And, it all kind of intertwines because, with my mom, I was kind of like living, we were kind of like really, really poor or whatnot, you know what I'm saying? She had a good job as far as she was dealing cards in a casino. And I think that kind of taught me a lot about, this hustling and kind of life and what money meant, I guess. Because she would do well, like on certain, like holidays or something. But long story short, when they said that in order for me to continue to receive treatment, we had to go to Stanford, or at least to California. Went to Stanford. It was Shriners back at Stanford, and they were saying that they said, well, we could either put rods in your legs, like put the steel rods in your legs, and that would keep them straight, so you wouldn't have to have so much surgeries, and you might be able to start walking right away, is what they were telling me. From my experience, like my bones was breaking so easy, I just kept thinking to myself, how are they gonna hold the rod? How the bones gonna hold the rods in if they're not hard enough to hold themselves together?
Yeah.
So, long story short, they said we had one more option, and that was to go to UC Davis and see Dr. Rad, and he the one who ultimately kind of clarified everything to me. He kind of was the savior because all the other doctors was talking about having to do surgeries, whether they're talking about cutting off my dang legs or freaking putting the rods in. It just all sounded very painful and not good to me.
Yeah.
And Dr. Rath said, first of all, he said I got osteogenesis imperfecta, which is the thing that Dr. Glass had, they said on the movie. So it's basically similar too, but what he ultimately said was that the reason I was getting all these different diagnoses was because I had some of the symptoms of all three of the things he said, the fibrous dysplasia, the McCune-Albright syndrome, and the osteogenesis imperfecta, but I didn't have all of any single one of those diagnoses. So it's kind of like some kind of amalgamation kind of thing. And so, but he said, just leave him alone. Stop cutting on him. And for me, I was like,
thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, I stayed with him. To this day, I think, I see him sometimes, like once every, few years, just to follow up, because I think he do a lot of his research based on, his history with me. Not a lot of his research, I think he uses me as part of his research as far as, his overall, writings, what he contributes to the medical field.
Yeah, probably learned from him.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, that's pretty much how we kind of came to ending up in Sacramento as far as long-term permanent. And when we came to Sacramento, we was poorer in a way than we was in Reno, because now we was on, I guess, like benefits, as far as getting food stamps, going on Franklin and picking up our books. And also at the same time, getting Social Security, stuff like that. When I first started getting on Social Security. But we were staying kind of in a place that was kind of weird because a lot of rich people, I guess, or, at least solid middle class people over there in that area at the time. But it's also, poor people that lived in the apartments where we did. It was kind of just a whole coming together, I guess, in that way. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of different from Reno as far as just not being kind of like in the, I don't know, amongst the roaches all day, I guess, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I kind of took to it. I liked it, the people and everything. And, and when I would go visit my dad, it would be way kind of where I was born at. It's kind of more like in the woods, kind of, far out. And it's not that they were extremely rich, but they were definitely more well off than, me that I'd been with my mom. And there was times when I went to try to live with my dad, but it just never worked out. So for whatever reason, me and my dad were never, close, like, to that extent. Like, I always knew my dad, talked to him on holidays and stuff like that, but it wasn't like the same kind of bond that I would have with my mom just from, like being there with each other every day. But so anyway, when I would go out there though and visit, like I'll go sometimes in the summer or go for, I don't know, Easter break or something, you know, spring break or whatever.
Yeah.
It would just be like a whole kind of like culture change, you know, like where you out there and it's less diverse out there, but it's kind of like you're, I don't know, like I would equate it to somebody one day kind of living in the city or whatever, maybe even in the damn projects for that matter, and then go and live on a farm for a while. It's like, what the heck, you know, it's just a whole different thing going on. And so, you know, it was, to me, I think I learned a lot, kind of just experiencing those two different things. Yeah, but yeah, ultimately, even Dr. Rab said, you know, that I could. He said I would live until I was 25. When I first got with him, he said my life is supposed to be 25. You know, kind of confirming what McClish said. But then he also said, but if you live past 25 or get to 25, then really ain't no telling. I think when I look online now, I think the life expectancy for somebody like me is like early 40s, something like that. You know, people with similar kind of conditions. But yeah, for a long time, that part of my condition, I guess, after I stopped having surgery in '87, I think that was kind of the overriding, other than just break. Like I would break my bone throwing a football one time. I was in 9th grade and I'm trying to throw a football. Spiral fracture of my whole humerus, you know, this whole bone right here just unraveled. It was like weird. But that's the kind of like easy way I could break my bones and that would hurt. But I think the more kind of, I guess, impactful part of it was just having that kind of like looming kind of, you know, you're only going to live this long. Like if I'd have known or otherwise, you know, being led to believe that I would live at least to the age I am now, then I probably would have made a lot different choices when I was younger. You know, I think that kind of put me in a lot of ways, especially like when it came to violence when I was in my late teens and after I was like kind of homeless and, you know, figuring out the world. I was very, I'm not a good person, but it wasn't necessarily that I was trying to be mean. I just was trying to make sure that I don't know what it was. I was just angry, I guess, maybe. But, you know, I feel like if I hadn't been thinking that I was going to die automatically, you know, by this certain age, then I probably would have did a lot of things differently at that age.
Yeah.
At least especially how I conduct myself as far as with others. You know, I was kind of like one of those types of people, like, you know, you hear statistics all the time say, oh, you know, you'll be this many percent and be dead or in jail by the time they're 25, and, you know, these demographics. And I used to just be like, well, I'm one, so I'm not playing with you kind of thing. You know, I wasn't scared of nobody and invited, I guess, trouble in that way as far as, you know, not being shy from it, you know. And you know, that wasn't always good, you know, that wasn't good. I feel like it sheer luck, I guess, that I didn't come out of there in any way that was either, you know, that way exactly, you know, victim of violence or in prison for a significantly long time. I think probably about at least 2-3 times I could think of. It was just a matter of luck that you know, that whatever the outcome could have been, that didn't happen. You know, so I think I was blessed in that way to be fortunate. Yeah.
How old are you now?
45. It's 2024?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm 78. Yeah, I'm 45. I'll be 46 in November.
Good shit. That's crazy.
Yeah, and I just got my PhD too. And so, you know, life kind of had been it really, in that way, took a big change for me when I, you know, had children. And I remember when I had my kids, and that's kind of when the hood politics was going kind of left a little bit. Nothing major, but just, you know, it started to like kind of be like, this is dumb, kind of a feeling. And, you know, I prayed that, because even at that point when I had my kids in 2004, my son was born Christmas Day, 2004. Well, when I had him, I still was under the belief that you know, like my life is probably, I'm reaching the end of my expectancy. I used to tell people at the time, I say, you know, I'm 25, 26 now. I don't feel like I'm gonna die. You know, like I feel healthier, you know, especially then than I do now. But my point is, I didn't feel anything that would lead me to believe that death was imminent from a health standpoint. You know what I'm saying? And so I remember I prayed. I said, God, just let me just live 18 more years. Deal. You know, I just want to, you know, see my kids to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I kind of, start making better, I guess, choices. Start trying to get a regular job, if you will. I went back to school. I always liked this school after I finished high school. From third grade martial on, I liked school, especially when I got to city college and going to college. You can get to pick your, what you want to study, stuff you're interested in, and even your schedule. You don't have to get up at 8 in the morning. It's really hard for me to get up at 8 in the morning because my bones so sore all the time. It was just, I'd be lagging, and I'd be late, and then they mad at me, and it's just, everything was just a drag. But when I got to college, I could say, I start my classes at 1 o'clock in the afternoon every day, study what I want to study, and then, I guess in high school and stuff, you got a lot of those kind of popularity contests where you kind of feeling, as far as where you fit into those, you don't have that so much in college, kind of a thing. A little bit, but not nearly like you would in high school and even elementary school, middle school, all that. Yeah. So I really took the school. So even when I thought that I would only live to be 25, I still went to city college and graduated because I just liked to do it. And part of it was money. I've always been kind of like driven kind of to, get money in that way, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Smart.
Yeah, so I wanted to do the music and stuff, and I felt like that would lend credence to that. And plus, the financial aid was good. And that was kind of like my outlet away from everything else. Yeah.
So okay, man, we're gonna go back real quick. So you got your like an associate's or bachelor's?
Well, I got my AA. My first degree is in AA in music at Sacramento City College. And I was in audio production, audio engineering. That's what the degree say. Music, emphasis, audio production / engineering, something like that.
That's what's up.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed that. I got to meet a lot. Like I basically went to the same program at the same time that Phantom went through it. Phantom, he kind of did a lot of covers for people back in the day. A little bit of music too, here and there, but he used to make beats too. That was one of the big things he used to do. I'm sure he still does it somewhere, I ain't talked to him a lot lately. But, not just him, but there's a lot of people in the program that you later see have albums out. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, so it's cool to have those kind of contacts early on.
Yeah, let's get this. Learn how to do this ourselves. We don't have to pay someone.
Yeah, that was a big part of it. And then for me, like, I always thought that, having a classic kind of 9-to-5 job was not really an option because, anytime I could break a bone, you can't come to work for 6 weeks, and so I had really planned on, using the studio in part, to be honest, as a front, but also to make money and have a business basis of income rather than a 9-to-5 basis kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yes, but I figured it'd go hand in hand because at the time, I think weed was still just basically recreational. And so, when I was homeless and stuff, I really got into hustling as far as selling weed when it was, I guess, a thing that was more so illegal than you would think of it as today.
Right.
And, I started selling weed even before my mom when I was probably 94, when I was in 9th grade, I want to say, probably started selling weed and crack too.
For your mom?
No, I sold the weed for my mom, to my mom, actually. That's kind of what got me into that part of being, like, I was selling crack and weed when I first started. But when the crack wasn't really making me no money. Like, crackheads would come up to you and say, hey, I got a curling iron and a
$7
blow dryer. Yeah, let me get a 20s. And it's like, what am I gonna do with these kind of things,
Right.
It was a hassle, basically. And so I kind of more so focused on weed after, after I learned all that part. And my mom would often, buy weed for her to smoke, but she'll pay too much. And then a lot of the OGs would be like, hey man, look, why don't you just, let me give you this £1/4, sell your mama this for this, and give me back this much, and you keep it, kind of a thing. So that's kind of like how, and that was when there was Bammer bricks. And, it wasn't even like sheets. That was around the time the Chronic came out, probably.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, so the Chronic was probably the first time I even really, anything that was like what we think of as bomb nowadays, we call it homegrown, because it never looked as good as you see it now, but you could tell that, like, somebody grew this, like, It was, you know, so it was something that wasn't cool unless they had chronic. And then, you know, that's kind of where the whole, in my view, the whole notion of what we think of as weed today kind of came from. When I was first started selling weed, it was just Mexican Bama bricks,
Damn.
$400 pounds, yeah, seeds, stems. Only thing, you just didn't want it to be moldy or wet, and it was good enough, you know. Sometimes the browns be better, sometimes the greeners be better. You just want it hard and heavy, and
Right.
yeah, and yeah, that's where I started kind of with my hustling, my weed thing. And so when I was going to city, I'm thinking of my studio as being more so like a front for me to be able to sell weed, but not even more so, a hand-in-hand kind of operation.
Right.
But yeah, and also at the same time too, I want to say that's when I was, you know, fathoming it, if you will, planning for it. But when I actually started to do it was after I caught my cases, and so it ended up turning into not a front. This is just what I do. You know what I'm saying? For the most part, because when I caught my case, I was on like search and seizure, felony probation. If you mess up, you got to go do 4 years, and I really honestly walked the thin and narrow for during that time. It was really hard. Like even like my friends would come over, like, you want to I don't know, go here or there. I'll be like, do you got anything in the car? You know,
Right.
You know, it was I would have to really go out of my way, if you will, to make sure I didn't get caught up in that kind of thing. Just because. So there was when I first opened my studio, for instance, I wasn't doing nothing. I was just doing music. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of that time when I was even recording, They Know I'm a Rider, I couldn't really hustle at that time because my hands was tied. Like for the first part of the album, I was, but that's right around the time I caught my case, you know, the serious, the one that in Reno. And so, cause yeah, long story short, my mom had moved back to Reno when I was homeless, and she ended up asking me could she get some tree out there, and so I bring her some weed, and she was like, well, my friend wants some too. And it ended up being like good money. I'll buy a QP for I think 150 or something like that, and go out there and I'll make 400 because they buy for $100 an ounce out there. Well, out here they only buy the ounces of the beverage for like 50 maybe, you know, basically almost what you paying for it almost. And so I was like, bing, and then the next thing I knew, I was going back and forth to Reno, and ended up, I think that before I got busted, I was selling like maybe 3 or 4 pounds of Bammer every week, but I'm getting it for like you get a pound of Bammer for like 400, you get 1,200, 1,600, and now you flipping 4,800. You know, I was making a lot of money. I had so much money, I didn't know what to do with it.
Man.
I went from being homeless to 6 months later, got 4 cars and 8 guns and
Damn.
cash that I lose track of, because, you know what I'm saying?
Supply Reno. That's
Yeah, it was crazy.